The principal of an elite school denied admission to a black boy, claiming that the classes were full. However, when the boy's mother, a black woman with an unyielding spirit, uncovers the true reason for the rejection and the story gains traction, the principal must confront someone capable of changing his fate. What happens next will astonish even the most seasoned observers. But let's start from the beginning. Jaden's mother, Amelia Robinson, a confident woman with a professional career in law, walks her 8-year-old son to a school known for its high academic standards. On this day, the school grounds are buzzing with excitement. Parents and children chat about the upcoming school year, while school staff welcome new students. Jaden holds his mother's hand, his eyes sparkling with excitement as he tries to hide the slight tremor running through his body. As Amelia approaches the main entrance, Principal Banks comes over. He stops, looks them over from head to toe, noting their skin color, and his face hardens instantly. Amelia feels the cold gaze but maintains her composure, continuing the conversation. "Good morning, Mr. Banks. We're here regarding my son Jaden's enrollment," she says with a polite smile, handing over the documents. The principal takes the folder, flips through it quickly, barely glancing at the papers, and a look of displeasure appears on his face. He pauses, then dismissively hands the documents back to Amelia. "I'm sorry, but we have no available spots. The school is full," he states with icy calm. Amelia narrows her eyes, feeling anger simmer inside her. She knows the application was approved a month before the school year began and understands that the reason for the refusal has nothing to do with full classes. "Mr. Banks, this must be a misunderstanding. We received an admission confirmation. I can show you the email from your secretary," she says, taking out her phone to pull up the letter. The principal glances briefly, cutting her off before she can finish. "In any case, we have specific criteria. Unfortunately, your son does not meet all the requirements necessary for admission." The silence in the air becomes almost tangible. Other parents who had overheard the conversation start whispering. Amelia's gaze sharpens, and she steps closer to the principal. "Your refusal is unlawful, Mr. Banks. If this is driven by bias, rest assured, we will seek justice." Banks frowns but says nothing. He simply turns and walks away, leaving Amelia and Jaden standing at the school's entrance. Sensing the tension, Jaden squeezes his mother's hand harder, his smile fading, but she leans down and whispers quietly, "We will get justice, son. I promise you." After the humiliating rejection, Amelia returns home with Jaden, determined not to let the incident go unanswered. Sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and her laptop, she starts composing a post on social media, detailing what happened. She attaches screenshots of her correspondence with the school administration and Jaden's admission confirmation. At the end of the post, Amelia writes, "How many more children have to face this kind of treatment? It's time for change." The post quickly gains traction. Comments of support and outrage appear by the minute. Some users share their own stories of similar instances of discrimination in educational institutions. Among the responses are calls for local media to pay attention to what happened. By evening, when Amelia checks her phone, it's buzzing with notifications. Several journalists have already reached out requesting an interview. Amelia agrees to speak with a local reporter who arrives at her home shortly after. The interview is recorded right in the kitchen, where she calmly but resolutely recounts the events, holding her composure in front of the camera. "I believe that a school should be a place where children feel safe and equal," Amelia says, her voice strong with determination. "We won't stop until we get justice for Jaden and all children who face prejudice." The next morning, news reports begin to cover the story, highlighting not just the incident itself, but broader issues of systemic discrimination in educational institutions. The interview clip gains tens of thousands of views on social media, catching the attention of school staff, parents, and even officials from the Department of Education. Principal Banks, sitting at his desk, watches the news and feels his face flush with a mix of anger and anxiety. He never expected the rejection to escalate into such a public issue. His colleagues at the school start calling him with worried questions, and some hint that the situation is spiraling out of control. By noon, the school office receives an official notice of an impending visit from a Department of Education representative. The letter states that the minister will personally hold a meeting to clarify the situation. Banks realizes that if he can't provide a convincing explanation, his career will be on the line. At that moment, he understands that the situation has become far more serious than he could have anticipated. On the day of the minister's visit, Principal Banks feels an unfamiliar sense of anxiety. The hallway is filled with tense silence. Teachers and staff cast wary glances at the door, waiting for the arrival of the distinguished guest. Banks, usually confident and unwavering, nervously smooths the lapels of his jacket, trying to collect his thoughts. A few moments later, the door opens, and a tall black man in a formal navy blue suit enters, accompanied by several officials. His posture, assured stride, and expression leave no doubt. This is a man accustomed to respect. It is David Robinson, the Minister of Education and Jaden's father. The room falls into a hushed silence as the minister stops in front of the principal and extends his hand for a formal handshake. "Mr. Banks," he says in an even but cold tone, "I need an explanation as to why my son, Jaden Robinson, was denied admission to your school." Banks swallows, feeling his mouth go dry. The minister's gaze pierces him, making him feel vulnerable in front of the entire room of people, all of whom are watching his every reaction. The principal takes a deep breath and begins to stammer. "Minister, it was a misunderstanding. We followed our standard procedures and the classes were full, you see." "Full classes?" The minister raises an eyebrow, cutting him off. "Your own records indicate otherwise. We conducted an audit and found that there were enough spots available. So this is nothing more than an excuse." The murmuring among the gathered staff grows louder. Teachers exchange glances, some trying to mask their embarrassment. The minister continues. "I am here not just as a father, but as a representative of the system that must not tolerate discrimination. Denial based on skin color is unacceptable in any school in this country. Today, we will show that equality is more than just words." Banks realizes that the situation is slipping out of his control. His face pales, and he feels exposed. His attempts to explain are drowned in the judgmental gazes of his colleagues. The minister turns to the teachers and staff. "We must work to make sure that the school is a place where every child feels welcome. This is non-negotiable." With that, the minister exits the room, leaving everyone in strained silence. Banks remains standing in the hallway, feeling as though his world is collapsing around him. After the minister's visit, the school is plunged into a state of tense anticipation. Soon, an official letter arrives, mandating a review of the school's admissions policy and an internal investigation. Principal Banks, shaken by recent events, realizes that his reputation is at risk. In the days that follow, the school becomes the focal point of attention not only from the ministry, but also from the public. Journalists camp outside the gates, eager to interview staff and parents. A teachers' meeting is held in an atmosphere of heightened anxiety. The staff gathers in the assembly hall, discussing recent events and openly expressing frustration about the situation. For many years, they had worked in a school where unspoken biases were the norm, but no one expected the issue to spill out so powerfully. Banks stands before the hall with a strained smile, barely suppressing the tremor in his voice as he talks about the need for change. Meanwhile, Amelia and Jaden return to the school to participate in a special meeting organized for reconciliation and the start of the school year. Jaden, dressed in a new school uniform, walks into the building with a mix of excitement and slight nervousness in his eyes. Students and parents attending the meeting discuss the events and glance at the boy with curiosity and respect. Standing next to his son, Minister Robinson addresses the crowd. Today marks the beginning of change. We must create an environment where every child, regardless of skin color, feels safe and valued. Let's work together to make our school a place for everyone. At that moment, one of the teachers, Mr. Harris, a man in his 40s with a kind smile, approaches Jaden. He extends his hand to the boy and says, "Welcome, Jaden. We're glad to have you here." The parents applaud, and a palpable sense of a turning point fills the air. Banks watches the scene with a heavy heart. He understands that he made a grave mistake, and that this may be the end of his career at the school. But he also realizes that he needs to rethink his views and stop being part of the problem. The story concludes with Jaden walking down the school hallway toward his new classroom, hugging his mother. In that moment, the school truly becomes a place for everyone, and the lesson learned by its staff and principals serves as a reminder that justice and equality must come above all else.